Holy Swordsman died sacrificing himself for victory against 6 dragons. But if heroes fall, then legends rise again. His soul decided not to give up until the last, and then he woke up 100 years later. Now he's reborn to finish what he started, to cleanse the world of its greatest enemies. Even death didn't stop him. Can a man, forged by death and born again, bring final peace? Let's find out. This story begins in a half-destroyed city. The sky was filled with winged creatures, dragons, and the ground with monsters. The people who tried to fight them back suffered great losses. Just one blow from the black dragon Vitra stopped 90% of the attacking force of their base. They were already beginning to wonder if this was the end, and the dragon confirmed it, ordering them all to disappear. Vitra released a powerful stream of energy, charged with sparks from his mouth, and the people covered their heads in horror, and then their protector appeared in front of them, dispersing the energy with one swing of his sword. It was the holy swordsman Agito. He told them that they had worked hard, and they should leave the rest to him. Once upon a time, back in the 1900s, gates began to appear all over the world, and from them came 6 dragons with their army, which they had to fight. Humanity had no choice but to resist them without any knowledge. But when the battle began, the people were able to use magic. But too many lives were being sacrificed to defeat one army of monsters. The final battle was about to begin. Amasaki Yumi arrived at the scene of the battle, and the commander guessed what the fact that they were both there meant. After catching her breath, she turned around and said that he had defeated all the other dragons. Only the black dragon Vitra remained. She felt a sharp pain and fell to one knee, saying that everyone else was already at their limit. Her comrades were now also experiencing terrible pain. The only one who could fight was Agito. The commander said that they had no choice but to trust him, and meanwhile Vitra said that it seemed like the other dragons had been defeated. Is he going to challenge him using only his sword skills? Agito confidently told him that it was not just sword skills, he would use all his strength to destroy him. Yumi said that all humans have a huge amount of hidden magic power, but his magic is not enough for even one beginner spell. He is simply not able to cast magic. That's why he came up with it. The infinite magic power that is contained in his sword is the Hakken-style sword technique. He used his ability and decided to start the fight first, and the dragon called him a fool and ordered him to turn into dust. After which he used the Black Rain spell, and energy pillars fell on Agito from 5 magic circles. He suddenly disappeared from the spot, and a second later he was already in the air, masterfully avoiding enemy attacks. He aligned with the dragon's head and used the 8-sword Sonata, God of Thunder, after which he waved his hand and delivered a powerful blow. Seeing this, the commander exclaimed in surprise that he did it. He did not expect such power from a person who does not own magic. Blood flowed down Vitra's face, but it quickly evaporated, and he said that he understood everything. What kind of useless things did people do up to this point? A third eye grew on his forehead, and then he flapped his wings, and thunder broke out, and the rising wind blew away the already destroyed houses. Yumi decided to intervene and raised a protective barrier, telling everyone else not to move and stand near her, and Agito smirked and noted that this was the first time he had encountered such power and pressure. He became much more serious. But he was also ready to put everything on the line. He closed his eyes and concentrated on the secret technique of the 8 swords style, Akatsuki, and ordered the dragon to attack. After that, they both rushed towards each other. Agito dealt many blows, like the dragon, from which a flash remained after each attack. Yumi said that with this he could fight Vitra on equal terms. Akatsuki absorbs and combines the magical elements of the surrounding attributes, while creating an explosive force. But the more he uses it, the faster his life is reduced. Still continuing to hold the barrier, she thought that there was also a chance that she would not be able to defend herself from such a spell. She needs to find a way before the dragon notices her. Meanwhile, the battle between the holy swordsman and the dragon continued, but the latter froze in place for some reason. His third eye noticed a glowing protective dome behind Agito and said that it was naive. They did not lose hope until the very end. The girl realized that he noticed them, and Vitra, calling them pathetic insects, created a magic circle and let out a roar, preparing to attack. Agito understood that if this could not be avoided, then everyone would be sacrificed. Then he decided to sacrifice himself, because there was no other choice. He finally turned to Yumi and told her that this was the end. The rest is on her. Realizing what he was going to do, she became worried, and the dragon at that moment released a powerful stream of energy at Agito, which is called the Dark Book of Death. And he meanwhile used the Sonata of 8 swords. A golden flame flared up behind him, and he, realizing that this was the end of his journey, rushed towards the purple beam of light with a loud cry, holding out his blade. Then 2 powerful energies collided and a confrontation began, from which the winner would be the one who is stronger. Noticing that the golden flame was approaching, Vitra became nervous and wished for its death, and then he was blinded by a bright glow and an explosion was heard in the sky, from which a shockwave passed. In the end, Agito emerged victorious from this battle, leaving the black dragon without half of his body. Vitra fell to the ground with a crash, and Agito followed him. Due to lack of strength, he was unable to land normally and began to lose his balance. Then, Yumi caught him and laid him on her lap, telling him not to move. He was badly injured. The commander, along with other warriors, approached him and asked in surprise, "Did he do it?" He caught his breath and told him that the core was destroyed. He would not wake up again. After his words, joyful cries were heard, and the commander wiped away his tears, realizing that humanity was still able to survive. Yumi began to treat him, and suddenly Vitra's voice was heard, calling Agito pathetic. He quickly looked around, and since the others were still happy, and the girl continued to treat him, he sat up and wondered if this voice was heard only by him. He looked at the dragon's body, and it said that their plan to awaken the strongest dragon, Ragna, had not changed. All the conditions had already been met. Agito became worried, and Vitra said that under the protection of the divine dragon, they, the 6 dragons, would be reborn in 100 years. So his battle was in vain. After these words, his body disappeared, and he called out to him, but immediately grunted in pain, and Yumi worriedly called out to him. He gritted his teeth and thought of the divine dragon Ragna. So defeating the 6 dragons isn't the end yet? No matter how hard Yumi tried, she couldn't heal his wounds, and that made her nervous, and he thought that he had used Akatsuki Hachime too often, causing his consciousness to slowly fade. He began to mentally beg for someone to give him another chance, since his battle was still not over. He began to fall asleep, and Yumi, noticing this, called out to the others, after which he closed his eyes and plunged into the darkness. A bright comet appeared in the midst of this darkness. It passed through the halos and fell into the golden magic circle, after which a measured beep was heard. The device said that his vital signs were normal. The patient's level of consciousness had been restored. The patient's name was Mitsurugi Agito. The attending physician would come to him soon, so let him wait for a while. He opened his eyes slightly and thought it was so noisy in here. He quickly realized that he was in a hospital, but there were so many devices that he had never seen before. Maybe it was some kind of military facility? At that moment, a program telling the history of this world was just playing on TV. The TV said that a ceremony was held to celebrate the peace achieved by the saint of swordsman Agito and the other 4 heroes. They were going to celebrate their 100th anniversary this year. Agito opened his mouth wide in shock, and when he saw the information on TV that a special documentary about the war with the 6 dragons would be shown in honor of the 100th anniversary, he exclaimed in surprise, "Has it already been 100 years? He started looking around for someone who could explain this whole situation to him, and then his gaze fell on the mirror, and he saw a completely different person in the reflection and wondered, maybe he had reincarnated? What was going on? The TV showed emergency news. The host told the viewers that some gates were activated last month, and today more than 50 new ones were confirmed to be activated, from the abnormal magical earthquakes that constantly occur in various places. Among the citizens, there are also rumors that this may be the return of the 6 dragons. The Magic Guild is on high alert. Because of this, Agito thought, he remembered Vitra's words about their return. He does not know why he managed to reincarnate, but this is his chance. If the 6 dragons have already been reborn, then the arrival of Ragna will be soon. But he does not think that everything will go according to their plan. He will definitely stop Ragna's awakening. After he returned home, he learned about the guy whose body he got into. He is a student of the School of Magic, lost his parents in early childhood, lives alone. But despite this, his name is too similar to his. He wanted to tell the Mage Guild of this era about the 6 dragons and Ragna as soon as possible, and then a soda can caught his eye. He placed his hand on the hilt of his sword, concentrated, and then made a quick swing and returned the sword to its sheath, and the soda can was cut into several pieces. After testing his strength, he decided to take action. While he was walking down the street, he noticed a large screen that was currently showing a press conference from the Mage Guild. The reporters inquired about what caused the gate to activate. They heard that the number of monsters had increased. The guild leader did not comment on these questions, and said that they would send high-ranking mages, including S, to various places in order to maintain public order. A powerful monster may have been born on the other side of the gate. They are also doing their best to find out the reason. Agito noted that he formulated his answers so clearly. It seems that the guilds in this era are quite powerful. However, he does not want his existence to be known to the dragons. He will go to the guild now and explain the current situation. Until he can grasp the enemy's movements, it is better for him to live the life of Agito Mitsurugi. Soon, he reached the place where he studies, the Kagura Magic Academy. He thought that he was lucky enough to be reincarnated into the body of a student. In this place, he can easily obtain information, and if things go well, he will be able to establish contact with the guilds and high-ranking officials. And above all, he needs strong allies to fight the 6 dragons. If there are talented students here, he should explain everything to them. When he walked to the main courtyard of the academy, he saw a student casting a fireball spell. He stretched out his hands forward and released a small fireball at a dummy, and the teacher praised him, saying that he has become a little stronger. Now he can become B rank. The student was delighted, but Agito was shocked. Looking at the others, whose spells were not as large as 100 years ago, he could not believe his eyes. They were all too weak. And this is the level of a modern mage? This is below the level of a recruit in the old days. He found his classroom and thought that this was bad. How can he find strong allies here? But first of all, he needs to assess the situation well and then decide what to do next. As soon as he entered the classroom, a guy named Hibayuki, a local bully, called out to him and asked if he had recovered, right? He was worried because he had been in the hospital for a month. He and his friends came closer to him and said that when he left, they did not know who to use as their toy. After these words, he laughed out loud, and the rest of the students in the classroom became nervous. Agito was scared for a second. He already thought that his true identity had been revealed. Still, he is embarrassed by this name, but he has to pretend to be Mitsurugi Agito. He apologized to the bully and said that he was in the hospital and somehow forgot some things. Who are they? Because of this, the bullies got angry and Yuki grabbed him by the collar, pulling him closer and asked if an F-rank idiot forgot everything. He said his name and rank A and then kicked him in the chest, causing him to fall down. Now he understands what is going on here. Yuki called him trash and said that he is acting crazy. Meanwhile, the rest of the students started whispering. They were discussing Yuki, but were afraid to say anything against him, just so he wouldn't make fun of them. Meanwhile, he noticed the weapon on Agito's belt and said with a smirk that outdated swords are perfect for an idiot like him. Does he hope that he can do something? Become a hero like Saint Agito? But that's impossible. Only his name makes them similar. He laughed again, and Agito sighed heavily, saying that he already understood everything. That guy was hospitalized because of his bullying. He threw his hand away, stood up and dusted off his clothes, saying that he had things to do. Why doesn't he hone his skills instead of doing such stupid things? The rest of the students became very nervous. They all understood what was about to happen. Yuki literally flared up with rage, and his friends became nervous and began to warn Agito that he would be hospitalized like that again. Yuki was so angry that he intended to kill him and cast a fire spell, which made everyone in the class run away. But Agito remained standing. The bully exclaimed that since he wanted to die so much, he would perform his spell, and then shot a fireball at him. Before the fireball could get close to him, he pulled out his sword and swung it, using the 8 swords technique, Whirlwind Strike. Yuki was thrown back several meters, and the fireball disappeared, which surprised everyone. Could it be that the F-rank Agito reflected the magic that almost reached the A-rank? Yuki, meanwhile, fell to the floor in horror, looked at Agito, thinking, is this guy really that Agito? He convinced himself that this was some kind of mistake, and exclaimed that he did not believe it. After which, he used a spell and was about to strike, but a girl appeared in the passage, who ordered him to stop. Her name is Amasaki Erika. She is a descendant of the great hero Amasaki Yumi, and her power reaches the A rank. Yuki gave her a displeased look, and Agito was slightly surprised. Everyone in the class was very happy that she had returned from the expedition, and she told the bully not to use such magic indoors. It seemed like he especially enjoyed bullying his classmates. She dispelled his magic with just one swing of her sword and said that if he continued to do so, she would act differently. He had no choice but to listen to this intimidating girl and told his friends to leave. As soon as they left the classroom, she sighed and her friends ran up to her, starting to congratulate her on her return and asking how everything was abroad. Meanwhile, Agito, because of her last name, thought, could this be a descendant of Yumi? Maybe he could talk to this girl about the situation. Yuki, meanwhile, was taking out his emotions on the poor tree and cursing loudly because this guy had embarrassed him. He threw a fireball at the tree and shouted that he would not forgive him and would definitely kill him. Meanwhile, not far from the school, one of the adjutants of the 6 dragons, Odium, was hovering in the sky. He came here to erase the unsightly origins of the 4 great heroes, but this guy interested him. He has such an unpleasant name, but it seems like he caught an unexpected prey. He chuckled and thought that soon, in the name of Rubal, that soon he will fully recover. He, Odium, will take care of it. Meanwhile, Yuki decided to call Agito and Erika to a fight after school, since they had disgraced him, and his friends asked in surprise, is he joking? Not only Agito, but also Erika, who is a descendant of one of the 4 heroes? He asked, what difference does it make? Those who insulted him, he will personally kill. Then applause was heard nearby. Odium came down to him and said that his anger was so amazing. Yuki asked who he was and where he came from, and felt a strong pressure. The dragon said that he was so rude, and then introduced himself to him, saying that he was one of the army of 6 dragons, a confidant of the Master Ruble, and now he will see if he can be of use to him. He grabbed his head and began to carry out some manipulations with the help of magical power, which caused a mark to appear on the guy's neck, after which he fell to his knees without strength. His friends were worried about him and called out to him. Then Yuki turned to them, but his gaze was fierce. The boys became nervous and began to ask what happened and what happened to him, but he ignored them and walked towards them, lighting a flame in his hand. He gave them a fierce look, and then a scream was heard. In the end, his 2 friends died at his hands, which the dragon liked very much. He laughed and remarked that it turned out beautifully. Finally, everything was prepared, and now they just had to start everything. Time passed. The students gathered at the gate of Class C in the Mukuro Mountains. The teacher said that a practical lesson would be held in this gate. He did not care how and with whom they united in this battle. The main thing is that they killed at least 5 monsters. And just in case, the A-rank executives were invited as observers, so they should not worry. Agito remembered the magical abilities of the current generation and wondered if everything would be okay. Among the crowd of students he noticed Erica. He approached her and thanked her for her help earlier. She told him with a smile that it was nothing, she had just scared him a little. If he had any problems again, he should tell her, and next time she would hit him. He laughed nervously and, remembering Yumi, thought that it was immediately obvious whose great-granddaughter she was. Erica said that besides, such people only targeted weak opponents, which was why she had confronted him. She didn't think he had the courage to attack her. For some reason, he was slightly surprised. He remembered his former comrades and realized that they had all lived long and happy lives. Noticing that he was lost in thought, she asked what was wrong, and he told her with a smile that everything was fine, they would see each other later. He left, and she thought that what Agito showed her this morning didn't look like magic. It didn't look like an accident, it was definitely a sword technique. The fireball was dispersed by the shockwave due to its enormous speed. Even an S-rank swordsman couldn't do something like that. Only one person could do something like that. The legendary swordsman who fought alongside her great-grandmother, the holy swordsman Agito. She wondered who this Mitsurugi was, and it was time to enter the gate. Soon after they began their journey through the cave, they encountered some kind of huge half-orc, half-pig creature, who warned them of his approach with his cry. The students surrounded him from all sides and began to cast spells, but apparently they didn't expect that the monster would not just stupidly stand in place and start to strike back. So he swung his club, knocked one of the students to the ground, and was about to crush him, but Agito arrived to his aid in time. He dealt with him with just one swing of his sword and turned to the guy asking, "Is he okay?" He began to teach him that distance was the key to fighting orcs, while the others were surprised that he was so fast. He waved goodbye to the students and continued on his way, thinking that as he had expected, low-ranking students couldn't pass this test quickly. He still needed to establish contact with influential people from the guilds. When he entered the next hall of the cave, he noticed something was wrong. All the monsters' bodies on the ground were torn to pieces, and Yuki stood among them, almost completely covered in blood. He questioned his name and became wary, after which Yuki turned around and shouted with a beastly grin that he would kill him. Quickly breaking away, he approached him and enveloped his fist in fire, but he managed to dodge and noticed that his magic power had increased sharply. His movements were somehow strange. He suspected something was wrong and held his sword out in front of him to block the blow. Then Yuki grabbed his scabbard with both hands, and he, noticing his broken fingers, wondered if he really didn't feel any pain. Yuki continued to press on him and say something unintelligible, drooling. At one point, his gaze cleared up a little, and he asked him to save him, which made Agito's eyes widen, and he remembered his wounded comrades and the dragon's victims. Gritting his teeth with hatred, he ordered the enemy to leave him. After which he lit 2 fingers and touched the boy's forehead with them, causing the mark on his neck to disappear. He immediately lost consciousness, but Agito managed to catch him and told his assailant that he knew he was there. Let him come out immediately. He carefully laid Yuki on the ground, and then Odium's laughter echoed throughout the cave. He appeared from a purple haze and said that his toy was now broken. It seemed that he would better kill him first, and then Erica. He extended his hand towards him, casting a spell, and said his name, saying that he was the adjutant of the flame dragon Ruble, who would return soon. Many magic circles appeared around Agito, and the dragon said that he would now become his executioner. After his words, flames gushed out from the magic circles, but such a seasoned fighter as he was not afraid. He took out his sword and made several quick swings, dispelling the flames, and Odium thought in surprise, did his magic instantly disappear? Agito said that the return of the 6 dragons will not happen, because he is the one who will ruin all their plans. Odium smirked and noted that he was so impudent, after which he invited him to play and fired several magic projectiles at him, which he skillfully avoided, and even managed to get closer to him. He wanted to strike, but his opponent's claws suddenly grew and blocked the attack. Agito noted that he was in a good mood. But why does he hurt people? He smiled and exclaimed that it was all fun. After these words, they both increased the distance between them, and the man began to shoot at him again, and he dodged again. Odium said that the war 100 years ago was incredible. Predators provide their prey with an escape route while hunting, and as soon as they begin to think that they have escaped, the predator appears in front of them and experiences great pleasure from driving the prey into a trap. And hearing the cry of a child who is killed by a distraught mother is even more pleasant. Agito's face darkened, and the man said with pleasure that it was so fun, and when the divine dragon awakens, he will be able to experience this again. He clenched his fists in joy, then looked up at his opponent with a displeased expression and began casting his spell again, saying that he would not let anyone get in the way of their plan. He laughed loudly again, and then Agito somehow appeared behind him and swung his sword, causing him to lose his arm. He looked at his shoulder in shock, and Agito told him to shut up. He hated hearing that. Odium felt a sharp pain and screamed loudly and attacked him in rage, screaming that he would kill him, then began swinging his claws randomly just to hit him. He screamed in rage that he was just a pathetic bug, but he ignored him and parried another attack, while he exclaimed that he was just a piece of meat that they had to hunt. He raised his hand, creating a magic circle above himself, and told him not to be impudent. He would burn him so much that it would be impossible to even recognize him. Many fiery stones fell from the circle. A peculiar meteor shower began. The spell fell on the entire hall, and Agito thought that it looked like he was going to destroy this gate. Since he left him no choice, he decided to use the 8 blades technique. Making a couple of quick swings, he threw the meteorites away, and one of the blows just hit the enemy. He was thrown aside, but this technique seemed familiar to him, after which all the meteorites were cut into small pieces, and Odium himself fell to the ground with a roar. Slowly getting up, he said with a grin that he recognized this technique. But these memories are unpleasant. When the Rubal army was defeated, someone used exactly this technique. That person was the holy swordsman Agito. He heard that he died in the war. Now it seems he has reincarnated. Agito asked if he should even answer someone who was about to lose his head. Odium gritted his teeth, and then for some reason laughed and grabbed his head, saying that the holy sword Agito is such an unlucky person, and yet he is here. So is his destiny to die again? But this time, he will defy fate. He opened his eyes wide and grabbed his head, feeling a strong pain, and Agito became wary. Tentacles began to grow in place of his torn-off arm, his teeth became sharper, and his body grew. He said that soon the day of the dragon god's awakening would come, and then they would gain new power. A huge shadow grew over Agito. Odium transformed into a half-dragon and let out a loud roar that shook the entire cave, causing stones to fall from the ceiling. Agito covered his face from the suddenly rising wind, after which Odium took a step towards him and laughed, telling him to look. This is the blessing of the dragon god. What despair will he show him now? Agito noted that he finally showed him what he was hiding, but now that he knows his true identity, he must destroy him. After his opponent let out a loud roar, the other students felt the shaking and became very nervous, but Erica felt a very familiar magic. She ordered everyone to leave immediately and ran to the source of the magic, thinking that this is it. The energy is too powerful, she needs to go deeper into the cave. When she arrived at the scene, she found Agito and some unknown monster. She looked at her classmate and wondered in surprise, why is he here? Odium meanwhile waved his hand, leaving deep claw marks on the ground, and Agito had already managed to get behind him. Erica and the monster were surprised by his movements, and a cut appeared on the latter's cheek. Immediately after that, many deep wounds appeared on his body, causing him to scream loudly. Agito said that it was such a disappointment. He was so big, but he squeals like a girl. Odium said with a smirk that he was joking, after which all the cuts began to heal quickly. And Erica was surprised to think, did he just laugh at him? Agito sighed in annoyance, and his opponent reminded him that he has the blessing of the dragon god, and tricks like sword techniques will not work on him. After saying this, he began to shoot magic projectiles at Agito, but of course, none of them hit him. And Erica meanwhile realized that this monster is too strong. It definitely has S-rank strength. Odium crossed his arms and then disappeared from the spot and suddenly appeared in front of Agito, who immediately put out his sword to block. He looked at it and thought that the blessing of the dragon god was too much for the adjutant class. After his strike, he jumped to the side and the monster began to press him, saying that he was a person from the past and he failed to ruin their plan. He died thinking that he saved the world, but everything turned out completely differently. He's just a stupid hero. Noticing that he was starting to get hit, Erica called out to him in concern, But Odium's voice drowned her out. He put more strength into his hand and exclaimed that the world he wanted to save no longer existed. Even though he was about to hit him, Agito stood there and didn't move. Just as his claw was about to reach his face, he swung his hand, cutting it off, and then a wide, deep cut appeared on the monster's body. He coughed up blood and said in shock that it was impossible. He tried to heal himself, but realized that he couldn't. His regeneration simply couldn't keep up. He fell to his knees in pain, and Agito walked towards him, saying that he was right. He's not a hero or anything. Many of his friends died in that war. However, the peace they won lasted for 100 years, and this time it will last forever. For the sake of his friends and their descendants, this time he would save the world forever. The monster chuckled and said that it was naive, then rushed towards him, but he stopped him with his bare hand. He gritted his teeth and nervously thought that this was simply impossible, then shouted in rage that he did not want to lose to a loser like him, a person who was supposed to die. He suddenly increased in size and said with a smile that he definitely would not lose to someone like him. But before he could take a step, Agito's blade was in front of his chest. He used the 8-blade technique, Piercing Moon, and lunged forward, sending a shockwave in the shape of a circle at the enemy. From this, blood spurted out of his mouth, and his body became covered in cracks and began to collapse. His monster shell peeled off his body, and stretching his hand to the sky, he called out to his master, then disappeared. As soon as the fight was over, Erika ran up to Agito and called out to him in a displeased voice, ordering him to explain who he was. At the same time, in the Chubu region of Japan, somewhere in the A-rank gate called the Depths of Hell, there was a girl named Toma Reina with the nickname Permafrost and the strength of the S-rank. She was sitting on the frozen corpse of a dragon and talking to someone. She said that she would inform the guildmaster that the lieutenant of the army of one of the 6 dragons was allegedly killed. Her interlocutor asked, "So the resurrection of the 6 dragons will happen?" Their prediction was correct. If it is not S-rank, then there is a re-invasion. She sighed and asked, now she needs to find out the location of the 6 dragons? She also wants to ask for more helpers. Now she doesn't have any days off at all. He told her not to worry, he has already found a candidate. His name is Mitsurugi Agito. He was the one who killed Rubel's adjutant, who calls himself Odium. She looked at his information and asked incredulously, did he kill him? She looked up at her fellow S-rank named Riku Udo, Perun, and he said that it was impossible. He didn't have any magical power, but he wielded a sword, so he dealt with him by himself. There must be some kind of mistake. Their boss said that any of them could check it out, whether his powers were real or not. Let them see for themselves if he was really that strong, then he would allow them to invite him to Seraphim. Riku took a deep breath and said that he would do it, and Rina would handle the report. She displeasedly told him to admit that he just didn't want to write it, but he didn't give an answer, as he noticed many small dragons in the sky and said that the cleanup was not finished yet. Reaching his hand up, he used his thunder magic, and several electric poles shot into the sky, frying the dragons, and he said that he can't wait to see how cool this Mitsurugi is. Some time passed after they returned to school. Agito told Erika everything. After learning the truth, she exclaimed in surprise. In other words, he is the holy swordsman Agito, and the 6 dragons are preparing to awaken the dragon god? He confirmed it, and she grabbed her head, saying that this is just crazy. She thought it was a bad prank, but his sword skill is at the level of an S-rank mage, and she has no other explanation for this, unless he is the holy swordsman Agito himself. She sighed heavily and said that she believes him, but on one condition. She also participates in the battle with the 6 dragons. She, like him, also wants to protect this world, and she is definitely not going to stand aside. Because of her behavior, he remembered Yumi. She was also so determined and confident. He smiled and noted that she was definitely her descendant, and thought that she had inherited this magic from her as well. She didn't hear what he said and asked what his plan was. He told her that he was thinking of gathering more allies since the 2 of them definitely couldn't handle it. They needed to find the same ones as before, like the 4 great heroes. Erika touched her chin thoughtfully and said that it meant that they needed mages like her great-grandmother. Seraphim came to mind. Maybe they could help them. It was an organization that researched gate anomalies, and it included S-rank people. He knew that she had gone abroad. It was an invitation from Seraphim. She had been helping them with their investigation. If she had to describe them in one word, she would say that. Agito didn't let her finish and said with a smirk that they were the strongest. But the question still arose, would they believe his story or not? She told him that she thought it would be okay. There were different people in this organization, but they had the same goal, which was to protect the world created by the Holy Swordsman and the 4 great heroes, so they fought. So she thought they would believe him. He replied that it was a relief that this era also had its heroes. It would be great to be able to fight alongside people like that. She said that there were some strange individuals among them, and at that moment, Agito suddenly turned around, noticing something. He quickly drew his sword and blocked a sudden lightning attack that Erika hadn't even noticed. Agito told her to be careful. They had a guest. After that, Udoriku landed nearby with a clap of thunder and said that to tell the truth, he had been looking forward to this moment, and it seemed like it was worth it. She was very surprised when she saw him, and Agito asked if she knew him.